Slay the Spire 2 is finally here, and you know what that means. It's time to stack your deck, chug some potions, and throw hands with everything the Spire throws at you. Today, we're talking about one of the most iconic characters in the game, the Ironclad. If you like big damage numbers, simple but powerful mechanics, and a playstyle that feels both aggressive and tanky at the same time, this is your guy. He might look straightforward on the surface, but once you start experimenting with his archetypes, things get really interesting. In this video, I'm going to break down what I consider one of the best builds for the Ironclad in Slay the Spire 2, along with the relics that really push him over the top. Whether you want to smash enemies with raw strength, lean into self-damage synergies, or turn yourself into an unbreakable wall, I've got you covered. So if you've been struggling to find a consistent run with Ironclad, stick around. Let's build a monster. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. When we talk about the best build for the Ironclad in Slay the Spire 2, we are not talking about one single magical setup that works every time. The Ironclad is surprisingly flexible across most Ascension levels, and that is what makes him so fun to play. You can lean into a heavy block-focused build that scales into the late game and turns you into an unbreakable wall, or you can embrace the self-damage archetype and convert your own health into absurd amounts of power. Both paths are completely viable. And honestly, if the game keeps offering you cards that support one of these directions, just go with it. Do not panic and think your run is doomed because you did not get a specific rare card. The Ironclad rewards commitment and smart adaptation more than forcing a perfect dream combo. On top of that, the Ironclad has some of the craziest infinite combo potential in the game thanks to his strong exhaust synergies and reliable card draw tools. You can build loops that generate damage, draw more cards, and even create energy in the same turn, letting you snowball out of control if the pieces line up. When you combine that with the right relics that support energy generation, card draw, or scaling damage, things get ridiculous very quickly. So whether you are stacking block, sacrificing health for explosive turns, or assembling an infinite engine, the Ironclad gives you multiple paths to victory. The key is recognizing what your run is offering you and building around that momentum instead of chasing one rigid blueprint. For this build, we are going all in on the strength mechanic, and this is where the Ironclad in Slay the Spire 2 starts to feel absolutely ridiculous. Strength increases all the damage you deal based on how many stacks you have, and once you start stacking it consistently, the numbers get out of hand fast. 1 or 2 stacks feels nice. 5 stacks feels strong, but when you start pushing into double digits, suddenly you are deleting enemies in a single turn and wondering if the game is still balanced. That is the beauty of this archetype. It scales aggressively, and it rewards you for surviving long enough to let that scaling kick in. What makes it even stronger is that the Ironclad has multiple ways to gain strength and several multi-hit attacks that take full advantage of every single stack. Each hit benefits from your increased damage, which means those cards become exponentially more dangerous as the fight goes on. And here is the best part. Unless a card specifically says otherwise or an enemy applies a debuff, your strength does not disappear, it just keeps building. That makes this archetype especially powerful in boss fights and against tougher elites with heavy block phases, because the longer the battle lasts, the more unstoppable you become. Alright, now let us talk about the cards that actually make this strength build work in Slay the Spire 2. To keep things clean and easy to follow, we are dividing them into 3 categories: core cards, payoff cards, and support cards. Core cards are the engine. They generate strength and define your run. Payoff cards are how you cash in all that strength and end fights. Support cards keep the whole machine running smoothly. Let us start with the core of the deck. These are the cards that stack strength and push your scaling higher and higher as the fight goes on. If you see these early, you can confidently commit to the archetype and start building around them. Inflame is the most straightforward option. 1 energy for 2 strength is just efficient and reliable. Brand gives you 1 strength in exchange for losing 1 health and exhausting a card, which might seem minor, but in a strength deck, every single stack matters. Rupture takes things further by rewarding you with 1 strength every time you lose health on your turn, which turns self-damage into long-term scaling. That is where the synergy starts to get interesting. Brand and Rupture together mean that losing health is no longer just a cost, it becomes an investment. You lose a little now to gain permanent damage for the rest of the fight. in longer battles that trade becomes heavily in your favor. Setup Strike is a solid early game tool. It deals modest damage and gives you temporary strength for the turn, helping you burst down enemies before they overwhelm you. Fight Me hits twice and grants you 2 strength, although it also gives the enemy 1 strength. In most cases, you benefit far more from the exchange, especially as your scaling takes off. Then we have Demon Form. Yes, it costs 3 energy. Yes, it feels slow at first, but once it is in play, gaining 2 strength at the start of every turn will completely take over extended fights. Against bosses and tanky elites, this card can single-handedly win the run if you survive long enough. Dominate is a bit more conditional. It grants strength based on how much vulnerable the enemy has and then exhausts. If your deck includes reliable ways to apply vulnerable, this can spike your strength dramatically. If not, it is safer to skip it rather than hope it works out later. Now let us talk about payoff the cards, because stacking strength means nothing if you cannot convert it into damage. The stars here are Whirlwind and Fiendfire. Whirlwind hits all enemies multiple times based on the energy you invest, and every single hit benefits from your strength. In multi-enemy fights, this card becomes devastating. Fiendfire, on the other hand, is your single target execution tool. It exhausts your entire hand and deals damage for each card exhausted. When you combine that with high strength, the damage becomes absurd. You are essentially trading your hand for a massive burst that can delete bosses. Sword Boomerang and Twin Strikes are excellent mid-game scaling tools. They both hit multiple times, which means every extra point of strength increases their total damage significantly. Thrash is more situational because it exhausts another attack card to amplify itself, but when used at the right moment, it can close out fights quickly. Conflagration rewards you for playing many attack cards in a turn, which fits naturally into an aggressive strength deck. Finally, let us round things out with support cards. Taunt and Shrug It Off provide reliable block, and in the case of Taunt, apply Vulnerable to boost your damage even further. Bloodletting and Offering give you extra energy at the cost of health, which synergizes beautifully with Rupture and allows explosive turns where you stack strength and attack in the same round. Battle Trance draws 3 cards for 0 energy, which helps you find your key pieces faster. Crimson Mantle offers steady block each turn while costing you a small amount of health, again potentially triggering Rupture. 1-2 Punch doubles your next attack for massive burst potential, but you usually only want 1 copy. Aggression keeps feeding upgraded attack cards back into your hand, ensuring you maintain pressure and never let the enemy recover. Together, these support tools smooth out the deck and make your strength engine feel relentless. Now let us talk about relics, because in a strength-focused Ironclad run in Slay The Spire 2, the right relics can take your build from strong to completely unfair. While almost any relic can provide value, there are a few that directly amplify what we are trying to do here. Stack strength, hit multiple times, and snowball out of control. If you see Vajra, Ruined Helmet, or Sling of Courage, you should immediately consider how they fit into your run. Vajra gives you 1 strength at the start of every combat. Sling of Courage gives you 2 strength at the start of elite fights, and Ruined Helmet doubles the first strength you gain each combat. That last one, especially, can lead to explosive openings if your first strength trigger is something like Inflame or Demon Form. Molten Egg is another fantastic pickup for this archetype. Since we are drafting a lot of attack cards, upgrading them automatically as they enter the deck saves you upgrades at campfires and keeps your damage scaling faster than the enemies expect. Bag of Marbles is also deceptively strong. Applying 1 vulnerable to all enemies at the start of combat gives you immediate burst potential, which is perfect for a deck that wants to capitalize on early strength and multi-hit attacks. On the defensive side, Beating Remnant is incredibly valuable. Limiting the maximum health you can lose in a single turn protects you from those terrifying elite and boss attacks that would otherwise end your run instantly. Strength builds can sometimes focus so heavily on scaling damage that defense becomes an afterthought, so having a relic that smooths out incoming spikes is a huge safety net. Beyond these specific picks, you should always keep an eye out for relics that provide passive block, plated armor, or other defensive bonuses. This build is naturally aggressive and wants to end fights quickly, but you still need to survive long enough for your strength scaling to take over. If you can combine free starting strength with passive survivability, you create a deck that ramps up fast and stays alive long enough to finish the job. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.